Homebrewers, and welcome back around to another episode of Come and Brew It. I'm Greg, and in our last episode you saw some of our 2014 NHC coverage, and that included a brief overview, and then it also had an interview with Denny Kahn and Drew Beecham. On this episode, we're going to go back to NHC. We're going to meet up with Randy Mosher, author of Radical Brewing. He's going to have a few things to say about his new books coming out later this year, Mastering Homebrew and A Beer for All Seasons. And let me tell you, Randy had a lot of great things to say, and we saw an advanced copy of that book, Mastering Homebrew, and it was amazing. I mean, it's a brilliant book. It's got really good graphics, great information. It's going to be a huge, it's a tome. It's going to be a big book, and it's going to be the kind of thing that you really want to have on your shelf because it's really going to help all homebrewers of all levels. So we're going to move on with that in a minute, and then we're also going to meet up with Pete Walden again to discuss a few more extract tips that he had in store for everybody. And in the meantime, I'm going to be doing a little experiment for a kettle sour Berliner Weisse. This is something that right now with the heat that's coming on here in Texas, it's already 100 degrees in this garage at the moment. It's a good thing. I'm going to put it in some pots, going to throw in some grains, and we're going to let the lactobacillus do its own thing to sour it in advance of the boil. And then when that's finished, it's going to take probably 2 to 3 days. It's kind of based on what you want, but when it's finished, then we're going to go ahead and boil that wort, add hops, everything else that you want to do. It's going to kill the lacto, and then you can go on and basically already have your soured beer, and you just use a clean yeast after the fact. It's just kind of a shortcut cheater's method to having a sour beer. But until then, we're going to go ahead and get started with that, and hopefully you enjoy. We're here today with Randy Mosher, well-known author of Radical Brewing and Tasting Beer.
Yep. And
we're actually at NHC 2014. We got to meet up. Luckily, Randy was nice enough to meet us despite some crazy cab rides and whatnot, so we got here a little late. But today, really, we wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, you've inspired countless homebrewers and beer enthusiasts in general with your previous books. But you're coming out with some new books, actually this fall, 2014, Mastering Homebrew, and also Beer for All Seasons. Great brews for good times, from summer thirst quenchers to winter warmers. Could you tell us more about those books?
Sure. So the Mastering Homebrew book I started working on about 3 years ago, so it's been an immense project. It's a big old homebrew book. It's about 400 pages. Of course, when you start doing a homebrew book, you don't want to really copy the classics, the John Palmer and Ray Daniels and even my own Radical. So the idea is, well, what do you find that's different? And so for me, for this book, the focus is on flavor and recipes, right? So the biggest chapter in the book is ingredients. So trying to make sure people understand the chemistry of malt kilning, why that's important, and how it creates a range of flavors and what that flavor vocabulary is, so that they can pick and choose from this mental sort of map of building blocks of beer flavor, and eventually learn to model those in their minds. It's like, okay, what would a little bit of 80 Love Mount caramel taste like this in beer? And the really good brewers have figured out, like, okay, that's the picture. You know?
Yeah.
So you need to really kind of, that's the ultimate goal for everybody. Okay. But you can't do that without understanding the flavors and what the science behind them and how they get created. And then, of course, the other piece of that that's the foundation really of everything is tasting. So one of the things I did in this book is I reached out to a bunch of my buddies in the homebrew and commercial brewing, guys like Sam Calagione and Lauren Salazar in New Belgium, and lots of well-known people, with a list of kind of crazy questions. So, like, what's important? And how do you go about a recipe and different things like that? And the one thing that came back a lot was tasting is the foundation of everything.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's really logical, because your limitation as a brewer is not really your money or your equipment. It's your ability to taste what's good and bad, and taste that depth, and taste the complexity. And if you don't have that, you're only going to get so far, because it'll all just sort of taste the same.
Definitely.
So that's why judging is so important. That's why being a BJCP judge, I tell beer distributors in Texas who are selling AB, you guys need to judge homebrew.
Yes.
Right? Because it'll make you better beer sales. And of course, you know, I get a lot of eye rolling with that, but it's absolutely true. You know, because you have to encounter those flavors in the beers and understand. So that's really important. So I created a malt color wheel. So I took the whole spectrum of malt from 0 or 1.1 or 2 all the way up to about 500 Lovibond and made it in a wheel. What that points out is there's a giant gap between 80 and about 200, where they just don't make malt. There is some caramel malts in there, but the reason why, when you think about it, is it's too harsh and horrible on cigarette ash. So that points out the fact that at the low end of the high range, chocolate malt is actually the harshest, sharpest, least chocolatey of all the malts. It's actually misnamed. People like to use it because they think it tastes like chocolate. It doesn't really taste like chocolate now. You know, Carafa tastes like chocolate. Those really black malts, like Patent, that has a chocolate. So people are misled, and they don't do enough tasting. They don't have enough intimate familiarity. They just look at recipes, or they put caramel malt in every beer because they always put caramel malt. Sure. Because so many people started with extract, and that's just kind of what you do, and then you're in a habit, and people brew out of habit. They do everything out of habit, right? So I'm just trying to get people to think about what you're doing. So I took the world of hops. There's 80 different varieties of hops. And then so there's information about the hops, but I didn't think that was quite enough. So I took all 80, actually about 85 varieties, and put them into lists according to what their flavor characteristics are, aroma characteristics. So there's a Cascadian, and there's a Britannic, and there's a Noblesse. So they made up some kind of funny terms for them to say these are sort of my proprietary categories. Yeah, and then within each category they're ranked. Because one of the problems we always have now, professional or amateur brewing, is you probably can't get that hop that you want. You want Citra? Yeah, it's not hard right now. So you're always looking for substitutions, and also it's like, I really love this hop. Oh, gee, here's another hop that's right by there. Maybe I ought to try that. Quite close, similar. I like that. Really maybe it's even more of what I like. It's down that scale towards spicy or whatever it is. And then you know, it goes on like that. So there's lots of information about the hops.
That sounds great, actually.
Yes. And then, so that's a big chapter. And then, of course, I cover brewing processes, try to include a lot of the newer methods like nose barge, fly sparge, brew in a bag, which is huge in Australia and growing very rapidly here because it's really easy. It's almost as easy as extract brewing, but you're doing full grain. So that's great. And then you get to all the way through yeast and fermentation and bottling and everything. And then you get to the recipe formulation chapter. And because I've spent my career as a graphic artist, doing packaging design and logos and branding and things, I'm used to working in the terms of the art mode, in the art world. And people who come from an engineering background tend to look at art as like some kind of hippie picnic that's no rules, right? But there are techniques to art. There's rhythm and harmony, contrast. Definitely. And the rules are more or less the same in any discipline. You have foreground, background, melody, counterpoint, you know, whatever it happens to be. In the flavor world, you know, you have contrast, harmonies, you have a hierarchy of one flavor sort of the most important, and other things feed that, some things contrast to sharpen it up. So there's a lot of things generally like that. And then I offer some tools for helping people to work with the complexity of beer recipes. Because you see a lot of recipes with 10, 15 things, and you wonder, you know, what are you doing with a half a pound of Munich malt in a stout?
Yeah.
Right? The scale of that's all.
Why? What's the point?
What's the point of that? So what I'm encouraging people to do is to break it into blocks. Right? So functional blocks. So there's a base malt block. You always need a base malt, no matter what you're doing. Right? So, but think about what kind of base malt. Right? With a pale ale, the habitual choice is pale ale malt. Yes. Is that what you want to use? Do you want a little more like roasted cookie kind of flavor like Munich gives you? Do you want a little more caramelly like you get from Vienna? Do you want to just spin it out with a little pills? You know, what kind of base character do you want? And then you can think about your adjunct, maybe an adjunct block. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't, but adjuncts can lighten the body. They can add richness, creaminess, if you're thinking about oats or rye or unmalted grains. So maybe you want adjuncts. Then you start thinking about your color. Really just like the darker malts like Munich or Biscuit or Aromatic or Melanoid. Crystal malt's kind of their own thing. You know, and there's a lot of them. And the thing people don't really realize about crystal malt is every single manufacturer's 40 Love caramel tastes totally different. Right? There's a lot. They're all very proprietary about it, and they all do it differently, and they all taste very different. So you got to get into
definitely a difference between the British and American
by a long shot. And the Germans are different, the Belgians are different, and even between manufacturers they're different. It's fun club activity to just lay out 20 different kinds of caramel balls.
We've definitely talked about doing that on a future episode, just to try, just to show the difference.
It's amazing, you know, and everybody ought to get, and again, the things that kept coming back is you have to taste. People I know who are the best brewers, they're like, always in the brew house, they're always chewing on whatever it is, because they're trying to constantly refresh their models, you know, and make sure they really know them. And then you start thinking about, well, how do you build beer? How do you think about the hops? You know, traditional brewing was you put some in for an hour, you do some for a half hour, you do some for 10 minutes, you put it in the end. Mostly people are not doing that. Right, or there's not really a need to.
No.
You know, you can get whatever you want at the beginning, put some in at the very end of the boil and flame out. There's a lot of beers being made right now. I talked to John Mallett the other day, and they're doing a lot of beers at Bell's with what we're calling the hop burst method, right? So they're not using any kettle hops at all, because in order to get these enormous hop aromas that we're really looking for in modern hoppy beers, you just can't put kettle hops in, because that doesn't leave you enough BUs so that, you know, you're just adding bitterness without aroma, and then you don't have enough hops in there for aroma without overdoing your bitterness. So that sort of hop burst strategy, and it's really a sliding scale between all, like maybe for a Kolsch or something where you don't really want a lot or any aroma, you put them all in the beginning, or you can put them all in at the end, or you can put them in, you know, slide that back.
You want a huge tank IPA, hop bursting at the end seems perfect.
Or only hop, like don't put any hops in the kettle, or just put in like a very minute amount to aid coagulation to help get that hop rate. But like 5% of your bitterness or 10% of your total bitterness, and then just put everything in the end.
It definitely makes sense.
It's harder to calculate. I mean, the calculations are pretty well known for half hour, 5 minute, 10 minute. You know, there's sort of a lot of debate about what that whirlpool hop. Sort of formulas like in commercial brewers, it's like 1 BU per minute. You know, but then they're in a big vat and it's warmer. It stays hotter longer, and it's hot under this much water. You know, so they get a higher extraction.
Better extraction.
For homebrewers, it's probably somewhere around 5, maybe a little higher perhaps.
Different, yeah.
It depends. So, and then the other thing that's really unique about the book is that there's a large international focus. I've been really lucky to get a phone call or an email. Randy, I'm from Paraguay. Would you like to come to Paraguay to judge homebrew? I haven't gone there yet, but Brazil.
Well, you've definitely been down to South America.
Yeah, I've been to South America a few times, and it's fun to be a big celebrity in Brazil. Take care of you, you know. It's really nice. They're great. I urge everybody go to Brazil. Go to the Homebrew Conference in Brazil. They'll take real good care of you. But they'll want you to bring some homebrew junk for
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, because it's
every homebrewer wants homebrew.
Well, and I once shared a 7-ounce bottle of Kuhnhen, which is a Michigan brewery, raspberry Eisbach, with 35 or 40 homebrewers in Buenos Aires.
Really?
Yeah, and everybody got like one wet lips, you know, and that was just enough. It was fun, because they really, really appreciate that. You know, they see what's going on here, they find it compelling and exciting, and they really want to do it, and they're coming along fast, so it's really fun.
That's great. The other interviews I've seen that you've done that really pushed the exploration of new ingredients and methods and whatnot. So that's what I've seen with everything with that. That's
so
a great
it's a ton of fun.
thing to see.
So the other book is my tasting beer publisher. It's a book that's a lot more like that one, except it's basically tasting beer for the seasons. So there's a few generalities about why we have seasonality and what the origins are in terms of agriculture and brewing in the summer and not in the winter and whatever. And then summer, spring, winter, fall kind of thing in exploration. And some of it's just sort of covering pilsners and wheat beers and different styles that sort of occur seasonally. And some of it's lists like what beers to get your mom for Mother's Day, and you know what kind of beers you might want to serve the ladies' garden club, and what to drink on St. Swithin's Day. And just some things that are kind of fun, practical yet fun. There's even a few homebrew recipes in there, or not full recipes, but some ideas in the June section for wedding beer.
It's a great idea.
Because people love brewing wedding beer. One of my favorite things to do is to brew one custom batch of beer for just a party for people you know and love, and like things that they like, and you know, so that's really fun. And then the final chapter in the book is around sort of an around the world meander that hits all sort of the high spots of the world's beer festivals and conferences and things like that. And this one, of course, is on it for June. But,
okay, well that sounds
so
like
that's a pretty fun book. It's
a fantastic follow-up to Tasty Beer too.
Yeah,
so.
that'll be really fun. Looking forward to that. I saw the galleys the other day on that. It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. It's really beautiful.
Excellent.
So they've done a really great job at Story Publishing. They do a nice job. So excited to have 2 books. It just sort of wasn't planned that way. The Homebrew book's at least a year and a half behind.
Well, we're glad to hear that they're both coming.
Yeah.
Because we know that they're going to sell well. We're definitely going to carry them at the shop. So.
Yeah, well, we're excited. It's going to be, I think, you know, I always try and bring something new. So whoever reads the book, at whatever level you're at, no matter who you are, you'll read the book and go, wow, didn't know that.
Well, Randy, we really appreciate you talking to us and taking a moment out of your time here at NHC. And we're glad to have met you.
Thanks for fighting a good fight. It's great to have people out there who are working at it and trying to spread the word.
Definitely try. This is definitely going to help all of our customers and anyone else that's in the local community for sure. Hopefully be on it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Randy was a pleasure to meet and talk to, and I can't wait to see how his book affects homebrewers, and hopefully we really have it on our shelves real soon. This is going to be a good one. But I'm going to go ahead here and transfer my wort over to my boil kettle, and in the meantime you guys are going to go check out a few more extract tips from Pete. Enjoy.
And welcome back this week. Appreciate y'all checking back with us. We want to talk today about cold break as we're going through some of our extract best practices. Basically, cold break is when you're chilling your wort after the boil, you're trying to get it as cool as possible, basically down to pitching temperature as soon as possible. And what the benefits of that are is when you chill your wort, all the proteins that are suspended in the wort will actually they'll gather together and they'll precipitate out or drop out, and you'll end up with a much clearer beer. You know, in the end, some folks, they'll take their boil pots and they'll put them right into the sink with you know, 4 or 5 bags of ice, and it takes like, you know, an hour or 2 hours, or let's say you're lucky and you do it in 40 minutes. That is a accepted means, but what we want to try to do is to take this up to the next level, okay? And in doing that, we need to start talking about immersion chillers. What we've got here is a 3/8 by 25 foot immersion chiller that you can easily set into your boil pot. Plug this up to the kitchen sink and with an adapter, and then, you know, this goes down the drain. That is a very accepted method. Another method would involve using this 50-foot copper coil. This is a 1/2 inch coil here, and it also comes with the hoses, you know, which you can plug up to your kitchen sink and so forth. That would provide much more surface area, and I think that's really the key whenever it comes to actually chilling your wort down as fast as possible. You want to get as much wort in contact with as much cold surface area as humanly possible, so that you can get the so you can maximize actually on the amount of cold break that you get. So we have several different chilling systems here that we offer at TBI, and there's different variations of each one also. When you talk about chilling your wort and just being really chill, it just kind of makes me think about this guy here, Johnny Red. Would you like to step in and talk to us about about chilling? And,
how you doing?
Good.
Well, one of the things that I like to do is hooking the water, the ambient water temperature to your cooler, and pouring water through there and get it down to about 100 degrees. And what I do is I like to take a sub pump or submersion pump, and I like to take that and hook it up to and put that in the bucket of ice water, and so that I'm actually transferring ice water through the coils, and I'm able to transfer the water and cool the water down, the wort down, to any temperature that I want, even all the way down to 45 degrees if need be.
Awesome.
I was kind of overhearing, I was shopping right here, and I overheard, you saying putting the hot water down the sink. With hippie friends like I have, your system is a lot better, as I would see. You kind of recirculate the water, and you.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's the method I use, and it works out great. You can also use a pre-chiller as well, running to the ice bath, and then through your coil, and it works just the same. Thanks,
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming in here.
Chilling really can make a huge difference on the quality of your beer. It gets harder the hotter it is due to high groundwater temps in summer, but it's still easier and faster than an ice bath. Anyway, I finished up my kettled soured Berliner experiment, ran it off into 2 CO2 evacuated and sanitized kettles, tossed a pound of milled grain in each, and covered them with a saran wrap to limit contact with oxygen. After 3 days in my 100+ degree garage, I had a level of sourness that I was happy with, so I boiled that batch for a short 30 minutes to kill the lacto and add hops. Then I pitched German Ale and SO5 to test the differences and came out with a quite tasty end product that I had in a keg a short 2 weeks later. I left the German Ale version clean and added cherries to the other for a secondary fermentation. And for a first try at souring, I'm proud of both. Next time around, I think I'll try a sour ground ale. Anyway, I hope this gives you a few ideas of your own to make the best of summer any time of year if you can rig a hot fermentation space. We hope you enjoyed the episode. In our next NHC episode, we'll meet up with James Klutz, a local homebrewer, to discuss his system and step mashes. We sit down with author Stan Hieronymus, talk to a few vendors, and do some style comparisons with Nate Weber, a local craft beer bar owner. Have a great one!
For someone really chill, we'll bring in Johnny Red here. He's been with Texas Brew for a number of years, very accomplished brewer and a musician as well, Johnny. So
Well,
welcome.
glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you. What can you add to this discussion about cold break and the brewing process?
Not a damn thing. I think you covered it.
Oh, come on, man. Thank you, though. Thank you.
All right, thank you.